Got that hidden metal on. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Shane.
Hey, I'm Jordan with PDQ.com.
Well, we are here for PDQ A. Ask your questions. I'm anticipating a few questions about the agent, the optional agent that is, can work with Deploy 17, the beta.
Yes.
Which is Deploy 17 has not been released yet. So if we are not using the beta for this webcast, but we can at least speak academically, most likely. And by we, I mean Jordan and Colby.
Colby.
We've got Colby on phone a friend. So he's our lifeline. All right, let's go ahead. And Lex is just licking my straw. I don't, just give me the thanks. All right, let's go ahead and ask the questions while I unwrap this.
Dear Shane and Jordan, when using Deploy 17 Beta 1 and Inventory 16 Release 4 Beta 1, what are the requirements to deploy auto-download packages to remote computers using Agent version 16.4.1.0? All attempts fail with the error deployment thread locked up and was terminated. Computer show online and inventory scans are successful. Thanks, JBCDEFG.
So, based on the question there,
Yeah?
it looks like he has everything he needs, so we may have encountered an issue with the beta. If you wouldn't...
A bug?
Yeah, bug. If you wouldn't mind sending that into support.
We certainly have seen successful deployments to
Yes.
to external. Well, we're talking about your machines are in an agent state known as external, meaning the external technically means it cannot access the PDQ server. So you can actually kind of force something to be external by some firewall rules. But anyway, it technically means that. Usually it means you're at a Starbucks or at home or something. You probably got a bug. Please send it to us, and we'll send you some more follow-up questions so we can nail that down.
I hope we can get that fixed for you pretty quick.
Our next question is from our good friend Gene, the dancing machine. After the agent gets integrated with Deploy, will that enable us to turn off file and printer sharing? Asking for a security admin.
Hello, Gene. At this point, please don't. And the reason for that is this was after some careful consideration. When the agent is internal, we still use the default runner, which is the optional agent, basically. I mean, there's agent features that are available. That's fantastic. The triggers like booting up and stuff. But when you're actually making a connection, just for the speed purposes, we do still require file and printer sharing. It may not always be that way.
Yeah.
But.
And also, currently it only works with our auto-download packages. So if you have a bunch of custom packages and you did that, you wouldn't be able to send those out internally anymore.
But even when you remove that, just on the inventory side, yeah, we would please still enable the file and printer sharing. Now you can change it so that that's not enabled when, it's not on your. If you have a domain computer, you can disable that in local mode when it's not connected to the domain, so you're safe when it's at a Starbucks or something. And at that point, we'll just use the agent, the optional agent. But when it's internal. We still use file and printer sharing. Yeah.
Dear Shane and Jordan, will the PDQ Deploy agent be a separate agent running, or will it be incorporated into the inventory agent? We are already pretty agent heavy, concerned about performance, of course. Thanks, Brian W.
You want to take this one?
Yeah, this uses the inventory agent. So there's not another install for that. So I don't know if it causes a bunch more overhead. It might see a little bit, but there's no other install that happens.
Yeah. In fact, it's not even, as you stated, it's not separate, nor is it incorporated into the inventory agent. It utilizes the inventory agent. One agent. Yes.
Just make
Colby.
sure that deploy is also in server mode.
Thank you. You make sure we're talking server mode, not local. When I say, I'm sorry, I used the word local earlier, and I realized I wasn't talking mode.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. But it uses the inventory. You must have inventory enterprise in server mode in order to utilize the agent.
Dear Shane and Jordan, will there be any option in the future to have an internal-only agent, meaning will communicate to my PDQ systems only? Sincerely, Matthew. Is that Matthew Broderick B?
No, it's not Matthew Broderick.
The resemblance is uncanny.
where a lot of where the agent's going to go depends on the feedback that we get, but at this point we don't know. An internal only agent, it's not. We don't have plans for it, but once again, you never say never. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think it's one of those, we have an idea of what we want, but the customers don't always agree based on their feedback.
Yeah,
we'll see where it goes.
We have a roadmap, but it is fairly fluid.
Yeah, there are some ways that you can sort of kludge it together right now, but it's messy.
Okay.
You could probably do like a firewall rule, a hosts file entry, but neither of those sound like fun to manage.
Cool. Let's do it.
Pablo G would like to know, is there a way to not send an auto report if no results come back from the query?
I seem to recall that this was being addressed a little while ago. Do you guys remember that?
So it sounds new to me, and it.
I seem to recall this question coming up, and we're saying, yeah, we want to do that. I don't know. Damn it.
So as far as I know, is even when it fails, it still generates the
it's gonna
report.
send it, but
So
I seem to recall some discussion about that. At this point, the auto report will run. If it returns, if that report contains no records, it still runs, and it's a report with no data. Which, remember, no data is what it is. I mean, we're if you're saying show me all the computers that have an old version of Chrome and no versions do, that's good. But yeah, it is creating a report. At this point, I seem to recall a discussion about that, but we'll have to dig in. Someone find out if that's in the queue to address.
Dear Shane and Jordan, what is the simplest method to generate a dynamic collection of computers which continually tracks Dual Monitors Workstations? Thanks, Samuel L. Maybe Jackson?
we got a lot of celebrities today.
Yeah, we do. Matthew Broderick, Samuel. Okay. I'm wondering why. Okay, so you can't do this in a collection. And there's a reason why. But I'm trying to figure out why you'd want a collection. Collections are generally used to group computers that you're going to take action on based off of the membership in that. For example, machines that have the aforementioned old versions of Chrome, they're in one collection. It doesn't matter what version, we just know it's not the latest. Therefore, deploy the latest to this. Yeah. What you'd probably want to do is, not sure of the use case that you're talking about with collections, but use a report. There's a couple of ways to do this in a report, so we can show you real quick. If you want to go to a report, if you want to just look at, a report, it show the number of monitors or displays that each computer has. You can just do a basic report. But if you want to start saying only show me those that have more than one monitor or more than two, then you're going to need to use a SQL report. But we'll just say display. We'll call this one display count, and we were going to create a new. Click that button to create a new row, and we're going to go to display. And I'm just going to do instance ID because I know that's not going to be null. And then we're just going to, in the summary, select count. And then when you run this, you'll see a count of each computer and the number of monitors connected to that computer. But this is showing those that have one. So if you wanted to say don't show me those that have one, that's where you're going to have to come into a SQL. I can hurry and write that if you guys want.
Okay. While writing it, there is another option if they absolutely wanted to be a collection where they could create a custom variable and then based on the report fill that out, and then that would.
Yeah, but that would.
It would be a lot of steps.
Yeah, it'd be an upfront hit.
Yes.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be continually.
Yeah, you have
collecting
to.
that information.
I think Colby has a blog out there somewhere about importing things into custom variables, but it would be very complicated with a lot of steps.
Let me hurry and see if I can hurry to do this. One of the reasons why this won't do it, the basic report doesn't have the ability to do what in SQL is known as a having clause. Displays greater than 1. Okay. So we'll just change this computer name and we'll just go to displays. So I'm going to change this one to, let's see, displays or count. We'll just do count. There we go. As displays. Display number. How's that? Boy, I'm just going all over the place. All right, and then from computer, then we got to do a join because we're talking about two different tables here. So from computers, and then join displays. That's the other table. And we'll do a natural join using computer ID. So computer ID is the primary key in both, and that's where you want to do the group by. Two clauses here: group by computers.name having count greater than 1. That should do it. Now watch this die. Now there we go. So this is a way if you wanted to filter those out, and then you can have an auto report. The previous question mentioned auto reports that throw either an email out or something. These are the computers that have this.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Can we add that SQL report to the download data for the users if they wanted to use that? Or
Oh, you mean the bonus content?
yeah, bonus content. That's the word.
Oh, it's so cute seeing you try to use that.
I mean-
Yeah, we can add that if you guys want. Yeah, and then if Stephanie's watching, if I screwed up, but I think that was working.
Looks like it worked to me.
Okay. Hopefully that will give you what you want. I think you're looking for really a report as opposed to a collection.
Hey, Shane and Jordan. We're looking at using PDQ Inventory. Do you have any details on the bandwidth the scans use? We have some really small pipes in remote offices we're concerned about. Sincerely, / welcome to the jungle, Q.
Keeping with the celebrities. Yeah, it's generally we're grabbing about a meg of data, but it was several versions back we did implement compression, so it's probably even smaller than that, quite a bit, because we get really good compression on those XML files.
Yeah.
So now you're probably talking about per computer several K. It used to be over a meg.
Yeah.
One problem that you're going to have unless you're using the optional agent is you're going to have every time you scan, you're pushing those binaries out that constitute the on-demand agent, or the old way, the runner, the scanner. That would cause most of the problems.
Yeah.
So if you really do have a slow bandwidth, you're probably going to want to incorporate that the agent, so that at least those binaries exist out there. Am I saying that? Is that consistent with what you know?
I believe so. Yeah,
Kobe?
I was going to say something similar.
Okay, cool.
That's how you know you got it right. When Kobe says I was going to say something similar.
And here we go.
That was a long one.
I have a static collection that I place all my conference room computers in. I am now trying to create a dynamic collection that shows which systems have Microsoft Teams installed and which ones do not. I then have a deployment set to deploy to my not installed collection. Is there a way to exclude a collection inside a dynamic collection? I know on the deployment I can exclude it, but it shows the conditions not met message, and I do not want to statistically add those systems by name if I do not have to. Jeremy O.
It was like statically.
Yeah. So
He knows words.
absolutely, there's a couple options for this one.
Yeah, for this one. So to sum it up, you've got dynamic collection machines that don't have Microsoft Teams, but you want to exclude some of those. Yes, you can do that. You want to try it? You want to just do the collection? Sure. So you could really quickly create a static collection.
Oh.
So he's going to go ahead and just create a static collection, throw a handful of computers in there, and matter of not.
And not name it, apparently.
That's okay. Now, yeah, so this is, conference rooms or whatever, I think is what you had mentioned. Named it. All right, there you go. All right.
All right, so I guess
You
one
center that
option
window.
is... Oh, I apologize.
All right.
Yeah, so one of those is you could do a not any within the dynamic collection and specify, I can't remember, member of collection, and you can specify the static collection they have right there.
You don't even have to do the not any in this case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's a. But you this would work.
Yeah.
This would work. But to clear it up, hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
To clear it up, you could just say go down to. Actually, it was member of collection, Or was that collection? Member of collection. And then you just say the name is...
I guess
member
does
of-
not
wait,
equal or
name. Now I just interrupted you.
Are you thinking of computer then collection?
yeah. So the computer
Yeah.
name contains, or however you
That's what
pull
I'm
in the
thinking.
initial list, and then the second one would be member of collection.
Where is that?
I'm not sure where you've
Collection.
where
Oh
you've
yeah, collection is not member. There we go. Thank you. Computer collection. So it's in the computer table, and then is not a member. So you could say, and then here you get to choose those collections, and we've got name it somewhere down here. We'll just use the filter.
And this
so
will
this one
type.
is just default collection. I didn't. It's gonna be at the bottom. New
Oh, you know what?
collection. Yeah.
It looks like we got a little bug there that it didn't change the name. Oh, you
Oh
didn't
no,
change
this,
it,
we
did
haven't
you?
made this one yet. Named it hasn't been made yet. We're pointing to new collection as the one we're excluding.
Okay, yep. I thought you had changed it to name it.
Oh no, it's the next one I did.
All right. So here you choose it. Yeah, collection is not a member, and then this collection would say, you could also add this of application, right? Or if you don't want this, this is where you would use the other group there. Move this down, and not any. And then application name contains Microsoft Teams or whatever, however it's called. So those not any would negate that, but if this member is in this collection that you don't want, it would not show up here either way, and you keep that top all. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that consistent with you?
Yeah, or I guess another option is if you had the dynamic, you could just create a new one with drill down from parent collection and just have that one not have those collections.
Yeah, if it's the parent. If it's the parent.
Yep.
Hopefully that answers your question.
Dear Shane and Jordan, is there an easier way to detect whether a system is using an SSD or HDD rather than using drive model number detection? Thanks, Billy Zane.
The only way I've been able to consistently do this is honestly to look for SSD in the name. That if you Colby, it looks like he's about to say something.
I believe we actually added a type field in recent versions that shows hard drive or SSD.
Thing about it is, there's always been a WMI property for that, and I've seen SSDs. At least now, this is going back several years. I saw SSDs that still looked like it was a fixed disk.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so I've always just gone to SSD. But if we have added that,
If we have, I'm not in the right area.
it might be interface type.
Oh, interface type. Okay.
It might be anyway. If we go look at interface type in a report, run that.
Oh, I have to
Yeah, you
actually.
gotta add it. You're doing a filter. Stuff is fun. Anyway, if what Colby is saying is correct, we're still at the mercy of the vendor being able to populate that. But just like you're at the mercy of the vendor, including SSD in the name.
Yeah, so it looks like interface type was just specifying the connection, but
Okay. Dig into that, but for honestly, what I've always done is just SSD contains SSD in the name, and I've seen the best results from that. Speed round.
Shane and Jordan, I need your help. I know we can exclude OUs from the AD sync and inventory, but is there a way to exclude specific computers? We have certain systems we don't want to appear in any inventory collections because we don't want Deploy to interact with them. Thanks, Tara D.
You're going to want, okay, so no, you cannot specify specific computers that you don't want in inventory.
you can specify
in-
security group.
In AD, but in this case, you don't want to move them to OU. What Jordan said, use a security group. Make sure the security group in AD is allowed to have computer members. By default, they're just user members. But make it to computers. Take these computers. So let's just really quick go to your AD sync. We'll just show you where this is. Okay.
Just control comma.
Go to Active Directory. And right here, you would just say exclude container. Choose that security group, that Windows AD security group, and then they'll be removed. That's what I would do. And the cool thing about that is, a computer can only be a member of one OU. You may not have an option to move OUs, but generally it can be a member of many, many groups. So create an exclude group.
Dear Shane and Jordan, any suggestions on helping Windows transition between versions, 1709 to 1803 as an example? Thanks, Gene C.
Well, yeah, people do use PDQ Deploy for these in-place upgrades, but one problem that you'll have is it's just kind of a spray and pray. To use a gun term, you'll need to fire the deployment off, which does the upgrade, but as part of that upgrade, it's going to lose connection to the runner. The runner will lose connection. The deploy runner will lose connection, and deploy will look as though it died. The runner just stopped, even though it's working. So yeah, you could fire it off, and then inventory will start to show the new version as they come online. But we lose connection to it at some point. That's the problem.
Dear Shane and Jordan, any way to pass a variable from a PowerShell script to the next step, i.e. PowerShell grabs information and the next step, install, adds this as a switch to the installer's command line? Thanks, Paul Y.
We don't at this point. So if you're going to do that, you're going to need to do some PowerShell magic on both steps. Because each step grabs its own environment, and you probably wouldn't be. If you used an install step, you would still need to most likely call a PowerShell script that is able to have the other script where the variable is created in the same scope. Am I? You guys want to add to that or correct it?
So my first thought was you could have it at the end of the first step, take that variable information into a file you can import on the next one. But then you're going to want to clean up that file at the end of it, at the last step. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you could create a lot of extra work for you there.
Yep, I've done this before.
Oh.
You can save files into the runner directory, and then they're automatically deleted once the deployment finishes. But you cannot, like an install step can't grab that. It would have to be two different PowerShell steps.
Two different PowerShell steps, and you wouldn't want to use the runner directory. You'd want to have another like staging directory that it reads that file from to gain the scope. It's not native.
You can start one directory up, and then that doesn't get deleted between
correct.
steps.
Just that current directory, those files will go. And yes, per step.
Yes.
So it's not a native feature. We have had a few requests for that, but for the most part, each step is self-contained. That step can pass or fail. You can say, hey, if it fails, skip this step or keep on processing or stop with an error. But those environments are different, so it doesn't maintain the variables. Sorry.
Shane and Jordan, is there a way to exclude USB drives in the low disk space group? Thanks, Tia M.
If you're talking about on the collection library, someone make a note. We could add a sub collection to that, but we would still be looking for, like you saw the SCSI type, probably USB. That's probably what we'd have to do.
Our collection library also is only based on C drive specifically.
At this point.
Yeah, so
you can create your own. The best way to do it is honestly to create your own collection where you would exclude
and
that.
I think you can set a policy where USB drive has a certain allotment of letters that it can use as drive letters, and then you could exclude those in your own collection. But I've never messed with that myself.
I would have just honestly, if you see, go, mount a USB drive on a computer, scan that computer using a standard scan profile, then look at those drives. If you see that device type as USB, then create a collection that says drive type does not contain USB. That's what I'd do.
Shane and Jordan, is there a way to deploy a package only when no user is logged on or the currently logged on user is locked or disconnected? Thank you. Jeff W.
The first one, yes. There is, may I? In deploy, we'll create a new package here and a new step. So let's say this install step. Now you could actually at the top level properties under options, it is, or actually pardon me, conditions, the logged on state only run if no user is logged on. You do that at the top level, and if no user is logged on, then it will continue down the regular steps.
So I think the third
But
one down.
the third one down includes it. Run only if a user is logged on, including locked and disconnected. What was the?
Which I think he was looking for both of those, but
This is saying, he's saying I only want to run it if a user is not logged on,
Oh.
or if they're disconnected.
okay.
And those are two mutually exclusive things. So, no, the first one, if you don't want to run it if the user's not logged on, then
So,
you can do that.
I believe there is a way with PowerShell that will tell you if it's in a locked state or not, where you could have step 1 be where it checks that, and if it shows as locked, it continues. If not, it cancels the package. But I don't know what that PowerShell command would be off the top of my head.
And you would still have to run that as the logged on user.
Yes.
So that it has that. So to answer your question, the first one, you're covered. Don't run it if only run this if a user's not logged on. But the other one, we consider a locked workstation or a disconnected workstation as being logged on. So
You might be able to do it with a collection condition.
oh,
I guess
if you create a collection, yeah, but then you're still based exclusively off of the last time it was scanned versus the runtime. Runtime in deploy. Yeah.
In the new beta, there is a scan step you can add to a deployment, so it could scan and then based on the collection.
That's a good point. Okay. Definitely the first one, though.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Dear Shane and Jordan, if I have a package that forces a restart in an hour, is there a way to abort or mark the deployment as successful if the user restarts the computer before the deployment does? That way the computer does not get restarted by the end user and then by PDQ. Thanks, Joshua L.
So what you're... A lot of these questions, there's not a native way to do it, but that you can still kind of get what you want. But if somebody... has somebody reboots and it's going to be rebooted in an hour from a schedule. No, that schedule will not say, "Oh, this is rebooted. It's okay." But you can have your target when you schedule those reboots. You could have your target go out to a collection like this, like a reboot required, needs a reboot. Or you could use these as templates and say, rebooted in the last day or something, or not rebooted in the last day. Use that as the target. That way, those computers that are rebooted, you also want to have a heartbeat scan or something like that. There's ways to do it, but you're probably going to want to focus on targets. Do you want to add anything to that, sir?
This is another one where the scan step would be useful.
That's a great one, yeah. Especially if you're only looking to reboot those that say a reboot is needed. We do track that. If if Windows says a reboot is needed for this computer, it will go into a collection for that. But yes, that's a great scan step you're talking about right here. When you're building a package, you can have.
If we don't have the
We don't have the new one. Yeah,
this
this
is
is
new with the beta, so it won't be on here yet.
the next version.
Yeah, one thing to know that if you're trying to do this with external, then it won't work because then you're using a custom package as we're
External,
kind of
the agent external
yes,
setup.
the
yeah.
agent external.
All right.
Justin P. would like to know, is there an easy way to create a dynamic collection showing what systems have a specific user that is a member of a specific group? Thanks.
So is he looking for a user
Yeah,
that
you
are
can
like
do-
a local administrator on the computer?
Yeah,
or-
the answer is yes. This is another way of saying I wouldn't do this with a collection because you end up creating a lot of collections, but more of a report. But yeah, you could do this based off of the member of group. I think is the table, and you can say this user is a member of this local group or is not a member. It's a local user or it's a domain user. The answer is yes, but to be able to report what those users are, you'd want to report as opposed to a bunch of different collections containing different users.
I swear the Firefox packages from the package library used to be a silent install. Now they are interactive installs. Why did it change, and can they be made silent again? Many thanks, Chad B.
Hey, Chad. This the answer, you probably have a setting you're not quite aware of. We haven't changed the behavior of the default behavior of Firefox to run silently. However, go ahead. No, you might have your deploy user set to deploy or your run as options.
There we go.
You might have your run as set to deploy user interactive or logged on user. We set, if you were to look at the properties here, we go deploy user, program default, that should be hard coded to deploy user. Anyway, but even if you've got this hard coded to deploy user, this can be overwritten at the deploy step, and the deploy step remembers what you had set before. So you probably check on your go do a deploy right now of Firefox. Go to the look at your run as and make sure that it's hard coded. Don't even use the package. Just say deploy user, and see how that works. You probably have that set to interactive or logged on user. Most likely deploy user interactive. That's what I'd wager.
Dear Shane and Jordan, I have a collection that looks for computer uptime greater than 10 days and computer online in the filter. This is scheduled to run every morning at 5 a.m. The schedule runs fine, but it never runs on all the machines that are present in the collection. It ran this morning on 4 computers, but still 12 did not get rebooted. What could cause this kind of an issue? Thanks, Bruno L.
So
he's. I want to make sure you're not. If you're talking about, you've got a PDQ deploy package that reboots, and it looks at this collection in your schedule for the reboot, and this is what I'm thinking you've got. We'll create a new package to do a reboot. We'll call this one reboot, yada yada, and it's got one step, and this step is a reboot step. So this is going to reboot, save that, and then we'll schedule this reboot. What you're probably going to want to look at under the options is stop deploying to targets once they succeed. You want to uncheck that one in this case. Usually you want that checked when you're talking about installing applications or something, but I would wager that's the problem right there. You want to uncheck that because a schedule runs and it reboots Jordan's computer, and then the next week that schedule kicks off. If that is checked, it's going to say, oh, you've already received this. I'm not going to run this again. On a reboot, you always want that to run. So that's probably what you're talking about. If it's not, please clarify the question with our support team. Because I may have misunderstood. And did you?
No. So yeah, it seems like the collection seems right. Although the is it online can change based on heartbeat, so it could have been offline at the 5 a.m. scan.
Okay.
But that seems less likely.
Any more questions?
Dear Shane and Jordan, how would you make a file directory condition on a package step where a step only runs if a specific directory in our repository exists? Thanks, Sean S.
Okay, so you're talking about file and directory condition on a package step, but it needs to reference the repository. That's the file and directory conditions, like all conditions, represent a state on the target, not on the repository. So in that case, if there's a specific directory in the repository, you're going to have to script that one. You're going to have to script it, and whatever user is running that deployment whatever's running as, if you're using deploy user, that user needs to be able to reference the repository. So if you're running this, if you're doing a run as like local system, you're going to run into problems unless you have delegation set up.
I'm not even sure if the file step. I've never actually tried a UNC path, but if the raw repository is not stored on the deployment machine, but instead you're using a UNC,
you're talking about
yeah.
checking a condition on the central server as
Yeah.
opposed to a condition on the target, which is not how that is meant to be used.
Faison N would like to know, is there a way to generate a report of all the auto deployments I have in place along with the days and targets I have chosen? Previously, it used to be under one tree, but since AutoDownload, I have to look at the icon and check if it is AutoDownload only or AutoDeploy. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point because ever since we changed from auto deploy to auto download, like these are auto download, you can see by that icon that's an auto download, but you're not sure if it's even scheduled. Before you used to have to go to the auto deploy. That's a good point. No, certainly not in inventory because inventory doesn't have access to that. You might have to write a regular SQL query that queries your deploy database to get that information, and that's going to be kind of ugly. Can either of you guys think of this?
I mean, you might be able to go in and just select all your schedules and run the report for the schedules instead, and that will list the computers that deploys onto and the date and the.
But if there's multiple triggers, you're not going to see the date and times. It'll just say multiple triggers.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll take that under advisement. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Dear Shane and Jordan, is there a way in PDQ Inventory to have a comment/note section on the computer details page, and then also maybe have a shorter comment viewable from the collections membership columns view? Thanks, Jeff W.
That would be a feature request. There's kind of a way to get what you're looking for, but not necessarily on the computer details page. You could use the custom fields.
Yeah,
And that would be going into options, preferences. Let's see, where are we?
I think we moved.
We
this to
moved that, didn't we?
options, Yeah.
Sorry.
Custom fields.
So we are custom fields. So you want to create a custom field and do like a text and just call this like notes or something. Computer notes. And then this will show up on, there we go, we'll close that. And then we'll just go to a computer, like Council of Ricks. And it won't show up here in this computer details, but it will show up in custom fields, and then you can add a value of, on 8, 15, added memory or something. You could do that, and that would exist on all the computers that where you could add that note. Otherwise, on the collections, there's a description. That's pretty much all you've got.
Yep.
Anybody want to add to that? Okay.
He's got it.
Dear Shane and Jordan, is there a way in inventory to have it exclude an OS type from scans, like excluding any servers that it detects? Thanks, Kurt M.
And you can do this via scheduled scans in your scan profiles. You can't do this via if you've got a computer in here that's set to scan, like Council of Ricks. If I want to disable scanning for Council of Ricks, I can just uncheck allow scan, and then it won't receive any scans. But if you want to be able to scan it sometimes and not others, attack this from the scan profile, and this will only apply to the scan profiles schedule. Mm-hmm. So we'll edit like the application scan profile, and then you would change your collections, link it to a collections, like workstations only.
Yeah, which I think we have pre-built.
Yeah, there's some pre-built ones. So there's workstations. When this kicks off and you base your trigger, every day at 5, or when the computer comes online from an offline state, that's the heartbeat. When those triggers are hit and that schedule's kicked off, then it will only go to those member computers there. But if I just go over to a server and just say scan applications, then it will scan, unless you turn off scanning completely for that computer.
And our final question today, is there a way to view last logged in user as a column in inventory? Thanks, Sean F.
Not natively, no. We don't have that right now. I wouldn't mind adding it, but we don't have any. It's not on the roadmap. So no, you could still grab that. You could grab that from like a registry scan, most likely, because that information is stored in HK local machine, and you could scan HK local machine to that particular key and then report it, but it wouldn't show up as a column in a collection window. But you would still be able to run reports against that using a registry key. That might even be accessible via a WMI scanner.
Yeah, and it's another area where you might be able to do the custom fields with Colby's blog that I mentioned earlier, where he has something where you can take based on computer name and automatically update the custom fields.
Okay. Well, rock on. Hey, thanks you guys. There's a lot of questions out there. Thank you very much. Please, if you're up for it, we'd love you to check out the 2 latest betas of Inventory and Deploy. Yeah, that's if you want to use the optional agent for deploying to computers off your network, deploying just unedited package library packages.
Yep.
I'm Shane.
I'm Jordan. Hey.
Rock on, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Justin P. and Tia D., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. If you have any additional questions, feel free to hit up our support forums. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you back here next week.